Thank you, friends. We meet at a time of great peril for our continent and for our country. Because Donald Trump is not only betraying Ukraine, it's not only their sovereignty he's selling out, it's our security, the security of Europe, the security of our United Kingdom, and that is unforgivable. Putin might be able to fool Donald Trump into thinking that his ambitions do not extend beyond parts of Ukraine, but we know better. Just look at what he's already doing in Georgia, in Moldova, in Romania, undermining their democracies and seeking to extend his grip further into Europe. Our brave Ukrainian allies are on the front line, fighting not just for their homes, not just for their freedom, but for the freedom and security of people across Europe, including ours here in the United Kingdom. Their fight is our fight. So to our Ukrainian friends, on behalf of all Liberal Democrats, let me say once again, we thank you, we salute you, we stand with you today, tomorrow, always. And of course, that solidarity must go beyond mere words. That's why I'm proud that the United Kingdom has been Ukraine's staunchest ally right from the start. I'm so proud of the tens of thousands of British families who welcomed Ukrainians into their homes, showing the incredible warmth and generosity of the British people. Why I am proud of all the military assistance we have given to the Ukrainian armed forces, the tanks and training, missiles and drones to repel Putin's war machine. And it's why I was proud that the Prime Minister brought Europe and Canada together here in the United Kingdom to chart a way forward the day after those appalling scenes of Trump and Vance ambushing President Zelensky in the Oval Office. And Trump's so-called special envoy might dismiss British leadership as pointless posturing, but we know what it really is. Britain leading in Europe again, as we have done at the greatest moments in our nation's history. Friends, wasn't it good to see that again after such a long time? But now we must step up our efforts and do more, much more, for the defense of Ukraine, for the defense of Europe, and for our own national defense too. So we Liberal Democrats have led calls for far more support for Ukraine, funded by the tens of billions of pounds of Russian assets frozen in the UK and the hundreds of billions of pounds frozen across the G7. We backed proposals for a new European rearmament bank to finance a massive expansion of defence manufacturing here at home and across the continent. We pressed the government to raise defence spending to 2.5% of GDP, and now we are continuing to push for cross-party talks to get it to 3%. You see, the threat we face is existential. To our east, a murderous dictator, hell-bent on building a new Russian empire and committing atrocities on European soil in pursuit of it. And to our west, for the first time in my life, a president of the United States willing not merely to turn a blind eye to Putin's aggression, but actually to praise it. A president who has repeatedly demonstrated that he is not a reliable ally to Ukraine, to Britain, to Europe, or to anyone else. So the fundamental questions we now face are these. How do we deal with Putin? And how do we deal with Trump? Well, let me tell you how not to deal with them. Just like any bully, you don't deal with them by curling up in a ball and hoping they'll leave you alone. You don't turn a blind eye as they attack your friends, praying that maybe they'll stop there. You have to stand up. Stand tough. Stand together with our friends. Make clear that an attack on one is an attack on all. And that, for the vast majority of people in our country, is our instinctive response. Brits can't stand a bully. What Trump and Putin are doing offends our fundamental British values of decency, fair play, respect for national sovereignty, and the rule of law. Almost everyone I speak to in every part of our country feels that way. But there is one man who thinks differently. One lone holdout. Someone who simply doesn't seem to get it. A man who splits his time between GB News, Mar-a-Lago, and weirdly, selling nappies on social media, apparently. A man who can even, legend has it, occasionally be spotted in the House of Commons. And if you wait long enough, in the town of Clacton-on-Sea. Nigel Farage. Unlike you and me, Nigel Farage thinks Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are great. Not in a, look, we have to be pragmatic and work with them kind of way, more in a teenager with a celebrity crush kind of way. Don't forget, when Farage was asked which world leader he most admired, his answer was Vladimir Putin. Yeah, really. Now, to be fair, that was before Donald Trump became president, so I guess Putin might have slipped to number 2 by now. But a tyrant, responsible for the brutal suppression of Russia's own people and countless atrocities in Ukraine, who has murdered thousands of innocent civilians and abducted 20,000 children from their homes, snatched them away from their families. That, apparently, is the sort of man who wins Nigel Farage's admiration. How despicable. How completely out of touch with British values, with human values. How unpatriotic. How deeply un-British. And this from a man who thinks he can be our Prime Minister. Well, not on our watch. With war on our continent, an unpredictable president in the White House, and an increasingly volatile world, this is no time for a nationalist. We need real British patriotism instead. At home and abroad, our country has big problems to solve. And let's be absolutely clear, Nigel Farage is not the least bit interested in solving them. If Farage had his way, he would turn our great country into little more than a Donald Trump tribute act. He said it himself. He sees Trump as his inspiration. He wants to do to Britain what Trump is doing to America. All the division, the nasty culture war nonsense, the economic self-harm of tariffs, cruelty for the sake of being cruel, siding with criminals and undermining the rule of law. And of course, limiting your access to healthcare and making you pay more for it. Now, Farage doesn't like to talk about it much these days, but he has been very clear throughout his long political career that he doesn't believe in the fundamental NHS principle of universal healthcare free at the point of use. He's called for an American-style insurance-based model. And he says he's open to anything when it comes to the future of the NHS, including privatization. Just like his idol Donald would want. And apart from that, isn't it striking that Farage has nothing to say about the challenges facing our NHS? Nothing to say about how to make sure people can actually see a doctor or a dentist when they need one? Nothing to say about ambulance delays or crumbling hospitals? Nothing to say about fixing social care so that our loved ones get the care they need and carers get the support they deserve? And I mean, literally, nothing to say. Farage has never uttered the word care once in Parliament. Because the truth is, Nigel Farage doesn't care. He hasn't mentioned the NHS once either. Or GPs, hospitals, ambulance, dentists. Imagine that. A political party whose leader has nothing at all to say on one of the biggest issues on people's lips and the biggest challenges we face. Our country has big problems to solve, and Nigel Farage is not the least bit interested in solving them. But friends, that's not the worst of it, is it? What worries us most about Farage and reform is the deeply destructive, divisive brand of politics they deploy. The weaponization of difference, the demonization of diversity, the scapegoating of the other. The superficial, simplistic snake oil solutions they peddle. We know where it will all lead if we don't stop it. We know what happens when cynical, opportunistic politicians seize on the struggles and the anxieties of ordinary people. Anxieties about the cost of living, about cultural and technological change, about sovereignty and security. When they exploit those struggles and anxieties for their own selfish ends. When they point the finger of blame at those who differ from you because of their religion or their nationality or the color of their skin. When they teach that those people threaten your job or your family or your way of life. When they manipulate new forms of media to spread lies, sow fear, and stir hatred. When they use those tools to convince you that their cause alone is righteous and all who stand against them are evil, we know where that ends. We have seen it before, across history, too many times. It's the populist playbook, and its pages are very well worn. It is ugly. It is powerful. And it is incredibly destructive. And not only to the groups they target, the vulnerable, the minorities, but ultimately to us all, to our whole society, to the very idea of liberal democracy that our United Kingdom embodies. And if this sounds alarmist or over the top, remember this. It always starts that way, with a reasonable, even beguiling face, with an appeal to common sense and plain speaking. but if allowed to take root, it grows and mutates with such speed and ferocity till it fills every crack in the foundations of our country, until those cracks become chasms, and what is broken can never be mended. So we know where it leads. We know what is at stake. Not just an election, not just a set of policies, but the very future of liberal democracy itself. That is what's under threat. And friends, Liberal Democrats, it falls to us to save it. Because with the Conservatives desperately chasing reform's tail, and Labour sounding more and more like them every day, we Liberal Democrats are the only ones with the courage and the conviction to stand up and offer something different. Offer a positive alternative, something better, hope. And here's the good news, because I know it can feel like the tides of history are against us right now. I know that when you look at Trump in America, Le Pen in France, AfD in Germany, Reform here in the UK, when the headlines are so often so bleak, it can be tempting to give in to despair. But the good news is this: what we can offer people is even more powerful than all their lies, all their false promises, the easy answers of the populist right. What we offer is even more powerful and even more popular: real hope. Hope based not on empty rhetoric or magical thinking, but on hard work and concrete action that people can see making a difference to their lives and to their communities. That's what good old-fashioned Liberal Democrat community politics has always been about. Winning people's trust by getting things done. Showing them what liberal democracy can do for them, not by talking about it, by rolling up our sleeves and actually doing it. Putting our policies into practice and our ideals into action. Now, I don't know if you heard what Kemi Badenoch said about us recently. Did you hear this? She said, and I quote, "A typical Liberal Democrat will be somebody who is good at fixing their church roof." And she ended, "And people in the community like them." Good at fixing the church roof, people in the community like them. I think she meant it as an insult. But I'll happily wear it as a badge of honor. Because she's right. Liberal Democrats fix things. But isn't it telling, that attitude from the leader of the Conservative Party? Not that she doesn't like us. I'm not surprised about that. She's got good reason not to like the Liberal Democrats. After all, we did take 60 seats off them last July. I think I'm going to say that again. We took 50 seats off the Conservatives. So you can hardly blame them for being a bit upset. But seriously, what I'm talking about is this sneering attitude of the leader of the Conservatives. The sneering attitude that says fixing church roofs is somehow beneath her, even beneath politics altogether. That what happens in our communities is trivial and insignificant compared to debating the true meaning of conservatism on Twitter. But it goes far beyond Kemi Badenoch and Church Roove. It's the whole Conservative Party, whether in Westminster or in town halls and county halls across the country. They have abandoned our communities. The Conservatives left schools and hospitals to crumble, left whole areas without enough GPs or dentists, left water companies to pump filthy sewage into our rivers and seas. And they have left decent, traditional Conservatives without a political home. Their out-of-touch, disdainful thinking is why the Conservative Party is in the mess it is today. Treating the day-to-day things that matter in people's lives, not just with indifference, but outright contempt. That's why so many lifelong Conservative voters have turned to the Liberal Democrats. It's why people rightly kicked them out of government last July, and why we must kick them out of our councils in May too. But that Conservative disdain and neglect is also what has opened the door to reform. And that's why it's so important that we Liberal Democrats are rooted in our communities, getting things done, fixing the church roof, and much more besides, showing people that politics can work for them, that who they vote for can make a difference, that their voice matters. That is how you defeat the populists, how you drain away the cynicism that feeds them, how you win back people's trust and restore their hope. Now, it's not easy, our way of doing politics. Liberal Democrat MPs certainly have to spend a lot more time in our constituencies than Nigel Farage spends in Clacton. Although, I mean, it's a bit of a low bar. But that's why no one ever joins the Liberal Democrats as a shortcut to high office. And if that's why any of you are here today, I'm sorry to have to let you down like this. We join because we want to make a difference to our communities and our country, even though we know it's hard work. And we all joined, because of a genuine belief in the core liberal values that have made our country great. Freedom and equality, community and internationalism, a commitment to human rights, to the environment, and to democracy. And those values are exactly what this moment in history demands. At a time when people are facing so many daily challenges on so many different fronts. The cost of living crisis, an economy that's still barely growing, public services that just aren't working in the way they should. Opportunity that feels further and further out of reach for too many young people. These are challenges that can really test our values. When people feel so economically insecure, when times are so tough, historically, these are the times that liberalism has struggled, that progress has stumbled. But these are also the times when our liberal values are needed more than ever to build the fair, free, and open society we all believe in. So that people can get on in life with real power to make their own choices and pursue their own dreams. Because we understand that if you free people, if you empower them to make their voices heard and hold the powerful properly to account, then you unleash the best in people and create a better society and a stronger economy as a result. So that everyone gets a fair deal, every child gets the best possible start in life, and everyone sees their hard work and aspiration properly rewarded. Everyone gets the care they need when they need it, and a helping hand if they fall on tough times. And friends, how critical are our liberal internationalist values right now? Not just on Ukraine and defending Europe from Putin, critical though that is, but on so many big global challenges, from the rise of China to the threat of climate change to the risks of artificial intelligence. These are challenges that no nation can afford to ignore, and challenges that no nation can tackle alone. Pulling up the drawbridge simply isn't an option. Like I said, this is no time for a nationalist. What we need is a movement of proud internationalists, people who believe that our country and our people thrive when we're open and outward looking, who know that the UK can be an incredible force for good when it stands tall on the world stage and stands up for what is right, who recognize that the concerns of one nation inevitably become the concerns of all nations, a movement of proud internationalists. And Liberal Democrats, that is who we are. The only party that has consistently opposed the Conservatives' damaging Brexit deal from the start. The only party arguing for a new deal with the EU, with a customs union at its heart, putting us on a path back to the single market. The only party still championing international aid. First, the Conservatives cut it, and now Labour shamefully have cut it, and we will oppose them. And friends, we're the only party in British politics speaking up in defiance of Donald Trump. The only ones willing to state the obvious truth that he is no leader of the free world. I mean, this is a man who stands on the White House drive flogging Teslas for Elon Musk like a particularly bad used car salesman. I mean, it's hardly ask not what your country can do for you, is it? And more despicably, this is a man who halted shipments of food, medicine, and other essential aid supplies to people around the world who desperately need them, locking whole shipping containers in port for their contents to rot. So much for Ronald Reagan's shining city on a hill. And remember, this is the man Nigel Farage calls his inspiration. We're the only ones willing to say that Trump cannot be relied upon to play by the rules or stick to agreements, that his presidency is a threat to peace and prosperity in the UK, across Europe, and around the world. Now we must deal with him as he is, bullying, narcissistic, unpredictable. We must deal with Trump from a position of strength, not weakness. Like on trade, if there's one thing we know, it's that Donald Trump loves tariffs. He says it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary, which, when you think about it, really is a very Donald Trump way of deciding your economic policy, isn't it? Now, as liberals, we profoundly disagree. After all, it was the Victorian liberals who overturned centuries of protectionism and ushered in a new era of free trade and prosperity. And we can already see the damage Trump's tariffs are doing to the US economy, with forecasters saying he may plunge it into recession. And we fear the damage his trade war could do to the world economy, impacting jobs and living standards here in the UK too. So the question again is, how do we deal with him? And the answer, we say again, is from a position of strength. Now, regrettably, that's not Labour's strategy. They say, let's be nice to him and hope he won't hurt us. Now, Labour's even talking about scrapping Britain's tax on social media giants, changing the UK's tax policy to appease Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Well, appeasement never works with bullies, and it doesn't work with Trump. And you can see that he's already put his tariffs on British steel. And let me say this to Elon Musk, who I know is my biggest fan. We will make out-of-control social media giants like you pay more so we can defend our children and young people from the harm you're causing them. But it's not just Labour bending the knee to this White House. It's the Conservatives too. They'd have us go to Mar-a-Lago begging, bowl outstretched, pleading for a trade deal on whatever terms Trump will give us. The Conservatives would sell out British farmers to President Trump just as they sold them out in their damaging trade deals with Australia and New Zealand. And then they'd let Trump's billionaire mates carve up the NHS between them. Another Elon Musk rebrand, this time to NHX. More and more appeasement in the futile hope it would protect us from more Trump tariffs in future. But we know it wouldn't. Of course it wouldn't. Just look at how he's treated Canada, a steadfast ally who fought fascism alongside the US and the UK. He has hit them with outrageous tariffs, breaking the trade deal between their two countries. Because he doesn't like the deal, so he doesn't think he has to stick to it. Last month, he asked, who would ever sign a thing like this? Well, we know the answer, don't we? You did, Donald, only 5 years ago. His signature means nothing. So no, a bad Trump deal won't protect us from tariffs. And playing nice, being weak is no way to deal with him either. So let's stand up to Trump. Let's stand side by side with the EU and with our Commonwealth ally, Canada. I urge the Prime Minister to bring those leaders together here in the United Kingdom to agree a coordinated response to Trump's trade war, just like the Prime Minister's rightly done on Putin's murderous war. And as others have done, we should hit back with tariffs of our own, starting with those Teslas Trump is so desperate to sell. And conference, let's put ourselves in the strongest possible position by rebuilding our trade with Europe. Strengthening British businesses and showing Trump we have other options. So you see, when it comes to dealing with Trump, As with the other looming threats in the world right now, it is our liberal belief in internationalism that offers the solutions. Conference with Trump in the White House and Farage leading a Trump tribute act here in the UK. Our role in British politics has never been more essential. Our precious liberal values are the only antidote to their destructive nationalism. Our trademark community politics is the only way to defeat their cynical populism. The threat they pose is grave. The challenge before us is great. This is a battle of competing values, a battle of competing visions, a battle for the future. We didn't choose this fight, but friends, I know you are up for it. I know together we can win it. For the future of our democracy, for the good of our communities, for the love of our country, let's go to battle!